Excel is not just for accountants. It can be used for a variety of different job roles, such as HR, sales, or inventory management. Today, we're going to have a look at 20 of the most frequently asked questions during interviews and even during tests to help you get that job. Let's get into it. Hi guys, I'm Serena. Today, I'm going to help you skill up in Excel. So let's have a look at the questions that we have. Now, we have 3 tabs down here: inventory, sales, and employee. We're going to go through each of them with a variety of questions. Now guys, this is not just a theoretical test. This is a test that I use with employees that we're onboarding, and it really helps you to understand whether somebody is just very skilled in Excel or if someone understands the formulas but just doesn't understand the business skills. So it's going to also help you answer certain data questions that will be important in your actual role. Let's get into it. So we have a data set over here which has an inventory data. Now we're just going to go through the setup of the table just to help you understand. We all have different terminologies on what we use. So the first thing that we have is the department, then we go to the code, which is just an unique identifier usually when it comes to inventory data, the name. We have a column here called stock on hand. So this is the amount of inventory that we have in our stock. Then we have a cost per unit, and this is $850 for each single unit, not for the total. This is the selling price, and this, for the purpose of this exercise, doesn't include things like VAT, tax, or any other factor. So it's just a simple conversion that we're going to look at today. Then we have a profit per unit, a profit margin, and an inventory value column here. Let's get into the questions. So the first question is, add the profit per unit in dollars in column H. So how are we going to do this? Very simple formula. The profit is the selling price taking away the cost price. So that's what you bought it at in column F, and that's what you're going to sell it at. And the difference between those two are going to be your profit per unit. A very simple calculation where you're going to take away the selling price from the cost per unit. Okay, so 349 is the profit per unit, and just drag down the column. The second question is, add the profit margin percentage in column I. So what is a profit margin? A profit margin is the percentage of the profit from the selling price. So if the selling price is 100, then what is the percentage? So in simple terms, it's a simple division where you take the profit per unit and you divide it by the selling price. Now here, if it's in a different format, will not be converted to percentage. You simply go up to the percentage sign and change it to percentage. And once again, we can drag this down. So this is the profit margin percentage per SKU, if you would call it, or per item. Now, the third question is, add the item inventory value in column J. So what does this mean? This means what's going to be the total cost of the inventory that we own. So we use 2 columns here, which is the stock on hand, and this is the number of units, and the cost per unit. And it's, again, a simple calculation where you're going to take the stock on hand and multiply it by the cost per unit to get the total value for that item. Here we go, and it's 5,100. Once again, we can drag down the formula. So now that we've got our columns filled up, we have some questions over here. So what is the total inventory value of all items? Now there are 2 ways to do them, and that's very easy. What you could do is sum this up here. So actually you could probably do it in 3 ways. If you highlight the cells here and you look at the figure here, you have 9,451. You can take that and add it into this field. The other way to do it is do a simple sum function. So there we go, press the sum function, highlight the cells you want to add together, press enter, and you get the same value, $9,400.51. Another easy way to do it, if you did not have the column of the inventory value, is to use a function called SUMPRODUCT. And what SUMPRODUCT does, it multiplies 2 arrays together. So sum product, and we take the first array, so we have the stock on hand, and the syntax is a comma, and what's the next column that you want to multiply it by. So effectively it's performing this in an easy formula. So we close the bracket, press enter, and you have the same value, 9,400. So 3 different ways on how to show that. Now, the next one is what are the largest inventory stocked items? So this can be by the largest value is column J. How are we going to do this? So there are 3 ways to do this. The first one is to sort the data that you have here. So we want to sort it by the top 3 data sets in this column. So we can just highlight the column here. We can go across to sort and filter. We can do largest to smallest to see the largest 3. Press OK. Now, if you didn't select all the data range, it's going to ask if you want to expand the selection, or it will sort that column, but it's not going to sort the rest. That doesn't make sense. So we press sort and expand this selection. Press OK. Now all the relative data with that is there. So the top 3 items are here with the inventory value, and if you want to add them here, you can simply copy Control C, and without ruining the formula, you can press Control Shift and V. It then drops in the data here without changing the formatting behind it. The second way to do it is to add a filter. So just highlight the columns here. You can select it and change it into a table if you want to, but for this exercise, we're just going to simply put a filter on top here. And what you can do is when you click onto the filter, you go across down to the number filters, and it says top 10. So just click onto the top 10, and what it does is bring up a dialog box where it says top 10, but you can change the number here to 3 and the top 3 items with that value. Press OK, and once again we have the same data. So you could copy that and paste that across into your data, into your questions. And the final way to do that is to use something called conditional formatting. So highlight your data, once again go up to the conditional formatting, and you have the top and bottom rules. You go across to the top 10 items. Once again, this is just a shortcut. You can do a custom formulation, and it's selected the top 10, but we just want the top 3. Well, we can change the color over here. Let's change it to green. Press OK. So once again, we have the top 3 items. So you can press Control, select that, Control, select that, and Control, select that, and bring it over to your data set over here. Okay, and the last question is how to remove the duplicates for the code. So I've just added 3 more columns here, just copied them from the above, and now we want to check if we have any duplicates in our data set. So there are 2 ways to do this. One is, once again, we can highlight the code here, and we can go across to conditional formatting, highlight cell rules with duplicate values. So once again, you can see that it's detected the duplicates here, and you can actually, if you want to have unique, if you want to have it that way, but let's click onto duplicate, and we can see that we have all of these codes here that are duplicated. So you would notice that you have the one ending in 160 here, and once again here. Now you can filter and then remove the duplicates if you want, or this is simply just highlighting the duplicates, but maybe we want to remove the duplicates completely. So how we would do that is to filter it. Okay, so the way to do this is go across to the data tab, go across to remove duplicates here, and it selects the data for you. So you can unselect the columns, because what this is going to do is if there is any duplicates in, for example, department or any of the other columns, it will also remove it and leave only a unique set of data. But we only just want to remove the code. So the best thing to do is unselect. Usually the My Data Has Headers is ticked by default, so you keep that because your data does have headers, and you go down to code, press OK, and now 3 duplicate values were found and removed, 15 remain. So there you go, If there are any spaces in your data, it won't detect that. It's simply an exact match. Press OK, and the conditional formatting automatically removes itself. Okay, moving on to the sales data tab. Now we'll have a look at a couple of other functions here and answer a few questions that is going to help us. So we have a data set here with a code, the quantity sold, and we want to know what the unit price is. So the first question is add the unit price from the data in the inventory tab. So here we're going to use the VLOOKUP formula. And if we go back to the inventory tab, we can just go across and we see that the code is here, and then we have the data here, so we can use a VLOOKUP. So let's go. We use the VLOOKUP formula. What do we want to VLOOKUP? So what is the lookup value? This is what we want to look up, the code, and where do we want to look that up? So we press a comma, go across to the inventory tab, and what we need to do is then highlight the data all the way up to the cost selling price per unit, which is the 5th row along from the data that we have. So we highlight that, comma, press 5, that's the actual data set, and then we press 0 to find an exact match. If we have an approximate match, that could lead to a lot of issues when we do the VLOOKUP, so we have to do an exact match. We close the bracket here, and when we go across here, as we're going to pull the data down, we need to just make sure that we lock the cells. So each time the formula moves down a cell, it still looks up in the same range of data that we have. So if we press F4 here and F4 here, that's going to lock the set here, and press OK. Now we double click and the data would work. If we did not lock the cells, this would go down to C5, G18, and it would carry on down, so it would miss data in there. Okay, question 1 over. Let's move across to question 2. Add the department from the data in the inventory tab. So once again, let's have a look at the data set. So we have a code here that could potentially be the factor that we could look over. Go back to the inventory tab. Now the code is over here, but the department is the column which is to the left of it. VLOOKUP only works as a vertical lookup with any data that is in front of it or at a vertical level. We have data which is now to the left of it, so we could use here the newer function in Excel, which is called XLOOKUP. So once again, we go back here and we go across to XLOOKUP. XLOOKUP has the same beginning syntax as a VLOOKUP, so it's asking you for the lookup value. We click onto the lookup value, and now it has a lookup array and a return array. So we press a comma, and then we go back across to the lookup array, so we can simply highlight the cells here. That's what we are looking at, and we want it to return for us the department, which is this right here. And once again, we can lock the cells so that we don't have any issue when we are moving down the formula. So we just lock them right here. There we go. Press XLOOKUP, and there you go. Double click that and the department will come all the way down. Okay, the third question is to make a pivot table to show the department-wise quantity sold and the total dollar revenue. So what we need to do is highlight the data. So the first column and the second column is not important in the pivot table here. We just highlight it from the date, from the quantity sold across to the department, highlight the data, go across to insert a pivot table, and now you can choose to have it in a new worksheet or an existing, but we'll click it onto the existing and it's asking you for a location. So let's just put the data just below and press OK. Now it comes up with the pivot table outline here, and once again it's asking us for the quantity and the total by department. So the first thing we need to do is to pull in to the pivot table is the department in the rows. Now you can choose to do this in the column if you want as well, but it's just very long and not very easy to see. So let's put it across in the the rows, and we add in the quantity sold as a value, because that will give us the total quantity sold, and then we add in the total, the sum of the total. Now you could change the field settings here if you want, perhaps if you were asked for the average, for the minimum, for the maximum, if you had a larger data set, but for this example we don't need to use those. Now what we have here is we've answered question number 3, and just to make it easier we're just going to copy the questions from here, bring it down to a pivot table so that we could just answer them. So now we need to use the pivot table to show the percentage total for each department. So we can go across here and we can add the column once again, or we can do it in a different way where we can use the same column. But for this, we'll just bring back the field list. We can add the total once again here. So we have a duplicated column. You could then change this to a percentage at the top. That just changed the header, not the data. And what you could do here is right click, go over to summarize, show values by, and we want to do the percentage of the column total. So click on percentage, and now you have the percentage column right here showing you the percentage that each department represents. Okay, so we have now question number 5. What is the lowest performing department? You can go through the percentage, you can sort the numbers if you want, but the simplest way to do this is you right click into the column, you go to show summarize value, no, we go to sort, and you go largest to smallest. So you can do that, you could do smallest to largest or largest to smallest as you want, and you can have a look at the department which is the lowest performing, which is cosmetic. So that's what you would write in the column here. Now, and the last 6th question is what department sold the most quantity? So once again, you can click into this, right click, and you can then go to sort, largest to smallest, and there you have dairy. There we go, and that's the answer to that question. And lastly, now we come across to the employee data. So you may be working in HR and there might be some different functions and features that you want to use Excel for. So this can be, of course, used in any type of role where you want to make a drop-down list. But simply here, we're making a drop-down list for the department using the following: sales, marketing, and admin. So in the department right now, it's, let's say, a free space where you can add whatever you want. But what we want to do is do data validation. So we go across, highlight the cells, go across to data, go to data validation, we click on the side here, and instead of any value, we're going to click down to the list. Now, usually you can take the list from a list that is already populated when you have a number of different options. But right now we only have 3, and this is very easy. So you could copy the cell from there, or you could simply just type in sales, marketing, and admin with commas separating the options, press OK. And now when we click into it, press the arrow on the right side, and you see sales, marketing, and admin is already there. The second thing we want to do is add the gender here. And how we're going to do it is we're going to add the gender by using the title in column B. So for this exercise, we're going to assume a Mr. is a male, and any other title, whether it's Mrs., Ms., or Miss, is going to be a female. So we're going to use a simple if formula here. So what we do is you go equals if tab the logical test. Now, what are we trying to test? We're trying to test if this cell equals, for this exercise we're doing Mr. first because that's the one option we have. Now if this is Mr, if anything in the text goes into the quote marks. If B4 equals Mr, we want to make this cell male. So we put male here, close it. Once again, because it's not a number and it's a text, it needs to go into the speech marks. And now it's saying if that cell is Mr., make it male, and if it's not, so if it's a Ms., Miss or Mrs., we can call it a female. So basically, once again, you put the speech marks in, female, close, and we will close. There we go, press OK. Now here we go, we can just drag down the formula and that should work. So Miss here is female, Mr. is a male. Okay, now we come on to question 3. So give employees that have worked over 1 year a 10% bonus in column I using an absolute reference. And if they're not entitled to it, then we need to add no bonus. So there are a number of steps to this formula, and we're going to use different types of formulas and different types of functions here. So let's break this down. The first step is going to be to identify those employees that have been there for more than 1 year. And we're going to do that by using today's date and taking away the number of days from the date of joining. So let's assume 365 days of the year constitutes 1 year. So we want to identify those employees that have been with the company for more than 365 days. So what we do is we do a simple formula called equals today. Now, if we do the formula equal today and we close the brackets, this is how the today function is used. Press OK, it comes up. Depending on the format here, if we just press the format painter just so that you could see that is the date for today, which is the 6th of May 2023. Now, it doesn't make any sense if we want to see the number of days. So what we're going to do is, let's say we have the formula today, take away the date of joining. Now, if we do that, once again, we get a date here, but we're going to change now the format of the cell, which will give us 208. So what this formula is doing is saying take away today's date from the date of joining, and it's giving us the number of days, which is 208. So now we can see who's joined us less than 365 days and who's been here for more than 365 days. Now the second step is going to be identifying those who have been there for more than 365 days and giving them a bonus, and the ones that are not entitled having in this field no bonus written. So the way to do that is once again an if formula. So now we start our if formula. If we go over to the formula bar and press equals just after the equals, close the bracket. So what we're saying is if today is more than, let's say more than or equal to 365 days of the year, we are going to do something. So what are we going to do? So if they've been with us for more than or equal to 365 days of the year, we are going to give them a 15%, a 10% bonus. So right now we're just going to use the absolute value of 10%, and we're going to multiply that by the salary to close the formula. And if they're not entitled, we are now going to write here a no bonus, and we will now close. There we go. So we have now if today's date versus the date of joining is greater than or equal to 365, then 10% times the base salary. You're going to have the formula there, otherwise it's going to say no bonus. Let's drag the formula down. Does it work? Great. So we have the top 2 employees who've joined us less than a year ago, and this employee here, Sarah Ahmed, that will not be getting a bonus, and everybody else gets a bonus. Now, one last thing in this question is to use an absolute reference. Now, what's the purpose of an absolute reference? Is that, for example, you have here 10%. Now you want to play around with maybe 11, 12, 15, whatever you want to do. You will have to then change the formula in every single cell. So the absolute reference remains as a locked cell where you can refer to and change the formula to 10, 12, whatever percentage you want, and be able to not have to go through every single formula again. So we're going to replace the 10% with a locked cell up here. So let's just type in 10%. Now we have a 10% here. So what we want to do is refer the formula to the cell I2 in each of these calculations. So once again, we go up here, instead of 10%, we're going to remove the 10%, click onto the I2, and we need to lock this to make it the absolute cell, because once again, if we drag the formula is going to then come to the next step, the next step, the next step, which we don't want. We want to make sure that we lock it. So F4 to lock it, press OK. And once again, if we drag this down, we'll see that the actual values remain the same, but now we can play around with the formula and see if the bonuses can be increased or decreased. So if we do, for example, something like 20, then all the formulas will dynamically change. Okay, so the fourth question here is make an email address for all the employees with the following. So the first name, the last name at hello.com. So once again, let's go across here to column D. Let's type in emily.duran@hello.com. Now, the flash fill function is quite powerful in Excel, where it can recognize patterns and then follow the same thing across. So what we could do here is highlight the cells here, press Ctrl E, and now what it says is that the flash fill needs a couple more examples to understand what you're trying to do. So we will continue with the next example. So we type in here ayana.wilson@hello.com. So hopefully now, once we select everything here, we will get a pattern, and it still doesn't recognize it. So what we do is just highlight the cell above and highlight the cells, press Ctrl E once again. There you go, it recognizes a formula. You can just do a quick spot check to make sure that everything is okay. Now, if you have a very large data set, the few data sets that you have at the top would give you an indication of whether it worked or not. But if you want to double check yourself, you could always do something like a text to columns and double check yourself if you need to do that. Number 5, quite simple, is highlight the 3 most expensive employees. What we could do, once again, highlight and use conditional formatting. So yeah, very easy here. Go to 3 and you have the top 3 employees right there. Okay, number 6 is we want to replace admin with legal. So now the admin department has become legal. So highlight the cells there, press Ctrl H, we open up the replace dialog box. What do we want to replace? What do we want to find first is we type in admin and we want to now call it legal. There we go, replace all. There we go, made 6 replacements. Okay, so all the admin departments here are now legal, but we will still have an issue if we have a data validation, so you can change that at a later stage. Okay, then number 7 is to make a department-wise chart to show the total salary. Now, if you make a simple chart just with the salary and department, it's going to plot every single data point onto a chart. So the first thing we need to do is convert this into a pivot table. So highlight the data that you want, insert a pivot table. Once again, we can just add it to the existing location right here, press OK, drag over the department, drag over the salary. And now once we have the pivot table that's grouped, we can go across to insert and let's go to recommended charts. Once we have that, we can see we already have a chart here which shows a bar graph. Press OK. And now we have a chart that shows us the department-wise salary, total salary. So we can change this a little bit. We can delete these. We can change the colors to yellow. And we could also do things like showing the data labels. So we can have, let's say, data call out. and gives you the department, legal is that, marketing, etc. Now the last question is to prepare the table and for printing and convert it into a PDF to email. So once again, what we're going to do is have a look at the layout of the table and see what we want. Now in Excel, you have grid lines. So the first thing we want to do is go across to the data review tab. We go across to page layout. We have a look at all the margins functions. This is where we want to have a look. So if you see view, you can uncheck that and you can not see that. You could even have the grid lines not in the print, but have a look at it online. But just to make it look cleaner, we're going to remove the view and we're going to remove the print. Now, if you have a look, you have the data layout. You can convert it down here. You have a page layout, you have a page break view. So the first thing that I like to do is go across to the page break view just to see how it's going to look. And right now what you find is you have different things behind the page where you have page 1, page 2, etc. So what you need to do is just move across to the edge of the table where you want it to print. The page where it's highlighted in grey is not actually going to print, so you don't need to worry about that. You have employee data here. Now if you have a look, it's not actually formatted as a table, so you can use a shortcut format as a table if you wish. Over here, press OK and it turns into a table. You can right click on that and move it across. If you want to remove then the filters, you could also do that, so it looks quite messy when it's being printed. And you have the salary here. Now once again, you can go into a different view, which is down here, the page layout, and you can add things like headers and footers if you want, but we just want to simply print the first page, so we have that. Now we go across to file and we do save as, and we click down on the list here. We are going to find PDF down here somewhere at the bottom, press OK, and once again we will have a PDF. Now this is going to save in a PDF all of the options, but what you can do is also save it as one tab. So what we need to do is once again go to File, Save As, Excel file. No, we want to go down to PDF. Then you go across to the more options, open that. You have different things here, standard online publishing minimum, and then you go across here to options. So once again, you have all pages here, but we just want to have the first page. And we can do ignore print areas, entire workbook. You can even have a certain selection. Press OK, save the file. And there you have it. You have an Excel file directly into a PDF. And the nice thing about the PDF is that it does follow the hyperlink. So for example, if you wanted to send an email and you do have a hyperlink, you can simply open your email directly from here. That's it for now. I hope that that's going to help you to prepare for your interview. I'm sure that a lot of these questions are going to be covered, and I wish you all the best. The file is in the description below, so please feel free to download it and follow along.